So now we're going to have a little look at how we might approach staging a duologue. So we have Joe and Felipe who are going to read scene 5 from Lovesong.
Scene 5, Night. A beautiful Chinese lantern hanging from the tree in the garden. William lies in the long grass. Margaret sits up next to him.
I want to be cremated.
What? No, right.
It's cleaner.
I don't think so.
It's quicker and easier. I think it's nicer
Cremation is nicer, right? Then what?
than being buried in the ground. I don't want to lie in a box in the rock.
Having read it, what are your instincts about these characters and their relationship and where they are? What can we tell just from what we've got?
It's relatively snappy, especially this bit down the middle here. They'll never let anyone cut down this tree because you and I will be here in my box. Don't say that. Together, let's cut us under this tree. What if we don't want to be? You know, it's quite snappy. They're comfortable. They're familiar with each other's thoughts. You know, their personalities, what they might say next.
For me, it's that same kind of like, I guess, feel. They both feel very familiar with each other. Especially, I guess, when you get to that point with your partner where you joke about killing each other. Usually that's about, you know, a good few years in. The text to me seems quite fluid. Even though the lines are quite short, they still seem, I guess, just in essence for me, one's falling this way, the other one's catching them, the other one's falling this way, the other one's catching them. It feels very much like that kind of movement.
Perhaps there's an opportunity for the physicality that we explore to fill some of those gaps, to help us to understand that even though they're joking and barbing with each other, maybe the physicality can show the closeness of that relationship to justify why that conversation is happening. Or maybe we want the physicality to do something else entirely. Maybe there's something about the concept of talking about death that actually makes one of the other characters uncomfortable. And maybe the physicality can be a way that we belie that. So we can start to have a think about whether the physicality that we want to play with supports what we want to say in a different way, or whether it wants to give a totally different perspective on what's actually happening.
Those first 4 lines, it's interesting to know that they're very different as people. I think they complement each other really well, but they're very different as people because if they agreed, they had the same outlook on death or life and death, the conversation will be over after 4 lines. I want to be cremated. What now? Right, it's cleaner. Yeah, you're right. That would be the end of the scene, and it wouldn't be in the play. So the tension exists between this kind of not difficult because they love each other and they're very close and this is a successful relationship. Because William's he's a dentist, isn't he? And he's very matter of fact and scientific and logical.
Yeah.
And Margaret is, I think, much more spiritual, or she has questions and she looks at the world a slightly different way. So this is how they navigate that. But I also think that there's a joke there, that first, you know, the first line of Williams is a little key into him as a character. You know, he said, "I want to be cremated. What now?" It's a little like, well, I can burn you in the barbecue if you want. It's sort of like a little teasing. He's always teasing her, and she has to fight through that. Going, no, I'm trying to be a little bit kind of serious, and we're trying to navigate. So there's a little sort of, it's interesting the way they dance around the subject together.
What really stands out to me is how comfortable they are with their different opinions. It feels like they're on such solid ground together. Their jokes about their future children and grandchildren are in this real solid ground, even though there's this push and pull between them that is jokey, that they're just so grounded as a couple in this conversation, which is surprising because they're talking about death, and death in the longest of relationships can really rock the person that is left. And I'm just wondering whether that kind of gives us any leeway into some kind of movement that has a push and a pull on this solid, stable grounding.
So we're now going to look at staging the duologue, and we're going to start by creating a little physical sequence that is based on round by through, but we're calling it ground, flow and disconnect because it embodies all of the language that and all of the feelings of the scene that we uncovered when we were having a chat about what we got from it on our initial reading. So Felipe and Joe have made our ground flow disconnect, and now what we're going to do is we're going to put the text from the scene on top of it just to see what works, if there are any things that feel like they're in the right place, whether we feel that we need to make edits. We're going to look for the opportunities when we just smash these two things together.
I want to be cremated.
What? Now? Right?
It's cleaner.
I don't think so.
It's quicker. It's easier. It's nicer
Cremation is nicer. Right. Then what?
than being buried in the ground. I don't want to be stuck in a box left to rot. I don't want anything left of me when I'm gone.
I think you better write it down.
No, you'll be there.
I might not be there.
Where will you be?
Rotting in my box.
Then where will I be?
I'll scatter you.
Well, I don't want to be scattered just anywhere.
Well, like I said, you better write it down.
No, I'm not dead. Oh, I'm not going to die just yet.
Oh, that would make things a little easier.
You're so cold.
No, I'm not cold.
You're so clinical.
What's more clinical than distilling an entire person? No, into an urn. No, worse. A cardboard box full of ash.
But anything else is sentimental.
Where would the grandchildren go to grieve?
To a mountain, to a nice beach, this house. I want to be buried underneath this tree.
This tree? Nah, someone will cut that tree down one day.
No, Mustard won't let them.
Mustard? What about Teacup?
Well, she'll be into nature.
Oh, like a mother, of course.
Yeah, she's sensitive.
Putting those two things together, did anything feel like it really worked? Did anything feel like it didn't?
Yeah, I think immediately.
Yeah.
There's some things that just feel good, don't
Yeah.
they? I think I really like the opening where
Yeah,
it's like just stopped. Right now.
Yeah, because
Right.
you know.
Yeah, that's quite a nice.
Safer.
you know.
Yeah. Me trying to, convince him, placate him, make him comfortable with the idea of being cremated and you scattering my ashes. That's where I kind of found my points of contact on him to properly use those.
Well, I wondered, even in that, seeing you do that, you had that moment of I want to be cremated. And when you said right now, there was a part of me that wanted to see you kind of grab Joe to kind of go, right now, come on,
nice, yeah.
And it's just interesting as you're watching it, what are the things that pop out to you? What do you think, oh, that's quite nice, let's interrogate that a little bit more, or that little section didn't feel like it was as comfortable. Were there any pieces where the movement felt like it potentially got in the way of what was happening?
There's a bit here after this bit, Joe, that's my disconnect.
Oh yeah.
I just wonder if it's a bit too dismissive, like it feels too cold for me. So just that feels like get away. But I don't think it should be that. So I wonder if we should find another way to do that, or maybe it's about the quality of it. Maybe it's like it just lingers a bit more.
It's like
I just give it back to you.
exactly.
Okay, well, lovely. Well, then why don't we look at those two moments? Let's have a look at how potentially playing with the start and that very first, because you've started the scene before you've even made any contact with each other. Yeah. So what are we going to do with that very first moment of contact, given how incredible that first line is, I want to be cremated? Okay. Let's see what you find in the physicality there. And then when we get to that moment where you felt like it was a little bit sticky, see what your instinct is and let's see what that does to the movement.
I want to be cremated.
What? Now? Right, come on then.
No, it's nicer, it's cleaner.
I don't think so.
It's easier
Right. Cremation is easier, is it? Than what?
than being buried in a box. I don't want to be lying somewhere and rotting. I don't want anything left of me when I'm dead.
I think you better write it down.
But you'll be there.
I might not be.
So how did that feel? How did that change the beginning?
That was nice. I didn't know when to start, which was my bad. But it felt much nicer. Oh, right now. It felt more playful.
It looked, after you'd had that initial, come here, it then looked as if you were trying to sort of escape and flow around. And actually, I wonder if we change that to perhaps that being your instinct, because you're the one trying to continue that conversation, trying to bring it back a little bit from being playful and moving more towards still a light conversation, but I want to have it. So, come back.
I want to be cremated.
What? Now? Right.
Well, it's cleaner.
I don't think so.
It's easier, it's quicker, it's nicer.
Cremation is nicer. Right, then what?
Them being buried in a box. I don't want to be rotting somewhere. I don't want anything left of me when I'm gone.
I think you better write that down.
Well, you'll be there.
I might not be.
So where will you be?
I'll be, rotting.
Oh,
So what did you discover adding those new impulses into it? Did it change anything?
Felt good. It felt like we should have been doing those things.
it kind of highlighted for me the place that Margaret has in the relationship in terms of hard conversations. William's character was a more kind of like, oh, we'll take it as it comes, it's fine, it's whatever. And I was like, no, like trying to, I guess, bring back the kind of maturity to this conversation.
What you've just articulated, Joe, is whether he's just a bit more blasé, right?
Yeah.
Cremation's nicer, right? Because then I can actually give you that distance
Yeah.
to come and make work to try and make him listen. I don't know, might be.
Well, I think there's actually something in the text that might really help us with that. The writer has given us stage directions. A beautiful Chinese lantern hanging from the tree in the garden. William lies in the long grass. Margaret sits up next to him. That's giving us the sense that this scene isn't starting with this conversation necessarily. These people have been here in this environment together for a while, long enough for them to have sat down and settled or be lying down. They might have been having a conversation prior to this, they might not. It might be a moment of pause, and this might be a brand new thought, we don't know. But why don't we try putting this on the ground?
I want to be cremated.
What? No, right?
It's cleaner.
I don't think so.
It's quicker, it's easier,
Cremation,
it's nicer
what is nicer than what?
than being buried in a box. I don't want to be rotting somewhere. I don't want anything left of me when I'm gone.
I think you better write that down.
Well, you'll remember.
I might not be there.
And where will you be?
Rotting in my box.
Then where will I be?
I think they'll scatter you somewhere.
And again, it just starts to bring out the shorthand that these people have between them as in terms of the language, but also in terms of their physicality and their intimacy and what reads about when somebody says something to someone and it hurts a little bit. Just the quality with which you perform that movement can give away a little bit of what you're not saying, which is really beautiful to watch. And what I loved about that is, Felipe, you stood up. The moment that you found to stand up was when you started talking about the children.
Yeah. Worse, a cardboard box full of ash.
Anything else is sentimental.
All right. Well, where would the children go? You know, to grieve.
And as we know, that's a part of the play. And we're not putting anything heavy on top of that, but we just get a little sense of the pain that's to come, which is really gorgeous. And also what we find is as we start to play, like, as you said, little bits of the choreography might become something else, or they might go a bit wrong, but we find something in that. We might lose our lines a little bit, we might lose the odd word here and there, but when we're playing and rehearsing, not to let any things that we could interpret as mistakes stop us, because they can actually be really valuable opportunities. So our scene is now starting to take shape, and there's still loads of things that we could play with, but what we're going to start thinking about now is we're going to jump ahead a little bit, and we're going to start thinking about where our audience is watching this from. So we're going to start to shape the movement so that we are delivering it to them. We're going to put them in a specific point.
I want to be cremated.
What? Now? Right?
It's cleaner.
I don't think so.
It's quicker, it's easier, it's nicer
Cremation is nicer. Right, then what?
than being buried in the ground. I don't want to be lying in a box somewhere rotting. I don't want anything left to me after I'm gone.
I think you'll have to write that down.
You'll remember.
I might not be there.
Then where will you be?
I'll be rotting in my box.
Then where will I be?
Oh, they'll scatter you somewhere.
I don't want to be scattered just anywhere.
Like I said, you have to write it down.
Well, I'm not going to die just yet, am I?
Oh, that'll make things a little easier.
You're so cold.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you're so clinical.
Clinical? What's more clinical than distilling an entire person into an urn? No. Worse, a cardboard box full of ash.
Well, anything else would be sentimental.
Where would the children go? To grieve.
A mountain, a beach, this house, this garden. I want to be buried underneath, I want to be cremated underneath this tree.
Someone cut down that tree one day.
Mustard won't let them.
What about Teacup?
Well, she's sensitive. She's into nature.
Of course, just like her mother. That was really weird. So sorry.
How did it feel?
Yeah, no, it was definitely a lot trickier. I think maybe just even just like coming back after lunch and remembering it.
It's hard to... I need to play the audience. I think I'm playing the camera, not the audience.
Joe, it's really interesting hearing you say that, and I know that I've definitely been in that position as an actor where I'm on stage going, I don't know if this is reading, and actually to stand out there and to see it, it absolutely does.
Okay.
The movement has now stopped becoming this thing that we choreographed, and it's just the way that you hold each other. One more version of this. Felipe, if there's any point in which you would like to leave, or points, there may be more than one, in any direction, the conversation might get to a point where you're done with it, you don't want to hear it, or whatever impulses you have that make you want to leave, you're allowed to try and follow those through. Joe, you've got all of the movement that we've made to try and make sure that Felipe can't go.
I want to be cremated.
What? Now?
Right. It's cleaner.
I don't think so.
It's nicer, it's easier, it's better.
Right, cremation is better. Than what?
Than being buried in the ground. I don't want to lie in a box to rot away. I don't want anything left of me when I'm gone.
I think you better write that down.
You'll remember.
I might not be there.
Then where will you be?
Rotting. In my box.
Then where? Lively.
That's scatty somewhere.
What did you feel doing that version?
It completely changed, I think, their relationship. I'd even go as far as to say maybe even their characters. I definitely felt like William was well more scared of even commitment maybe, or scared about talking maybe about death. There's something adding physical space, I think added it also emotional and space between the characters.
Felt like that space gave the impression that these are two people mentally in very different places whilst in the same conversation. You know, all of these beautiful gifts are just coming from just changing one tiny little thing and seeing what happens.
After this exploration, return to the text with no movement and see if there's something you miss. Has the physical exploration taught you something about the situation that does not need to be presented through choreography? This approach can simply be a way of exploring the text. The movement does not have to be part of the final performance, but it can be a vital way of exploring the tension, nuance, and complexity within the text.